So welcome back. So we are going to now do the update and the delete. They are going to be quite simple. So we'll start with update. So we can say update. So we'll create a function. So we'll say function. Then we'll say update student. So we'll say update student. Then we pass student value as a student, and we ensure that this is an integer function. Then we'll just do dot writable, so it will be quite easy. So we'll just say val db equals to, then we'll say writable database. Then we pass our content values that is going to get for us the ID, name and user ID. So we'll say val, so just as we have done in the create. So we'll say val, then we call our content values equals to, then we'll say content values class. Then we are going to pass the keys. So we'll say content values dot put. So we'll say content values dot put. Then we're going to pass ID, name and email. So we'll just pass the three of them. So content ID, then we come in and say the first one is going to be ID. What do we want specifically here? We want the user ID. So we'll say user. We're going to pass student, so we'll just say student dot user ID. Then for email, we'll pass key email, then we'll say student dot user email, and then we'll say key name. So we can pass student dot user name. So we can just interchange this to be just below and be there. So we have the ID, we have the name, and we have the email. So once we call that, we'll create our query. So our query, we can just say val, then we say success equals to, then we'll say db call our database dot update, and then we do the query. So what do we want to update? We want to update, have to specify table contacts. Then what do we want? We will specify our content values. So we'll say our content values, content values. Then we'll say our where clause, so content values where ID equals to, and then to be equals to student dot user ID, and then we'll pass now. So here we are expected to content values place a comma. So our query will be here, update table contacts where ID is student ID. So you're going to use the ID to update the values, and then now we can do our db dot close, and then we'll now return, because it's our integer type, we return the success. So we return this variable success where we have updated. So we have that, and that's simply for update. For delete will also be quite easy. So we are going to create a function delete student. So we'll say function, say delete student. So we call function delete student. So function delete student, and then what do we pass in our function? We pass the delete, so we'll say student, and make this an integer. So we have our function delete student. Then we'll just say val, and then we create a database. So we'll say val db is equals to, then we say this dot writable database, and then now we use our content values, but for now we are just going to pass the id because we are going to use the id to delete. So we'll just say val, then we'll say content values equals to, and we call content values class. Then once we do that, we'll do a put. So we'll say content values dot put, then we are going to pass specifically the key id, and then we're going to pass the student dot user id, and then we'll do our delete column. So the query will be, so we'll just say val, and we call success of our query equals to, then we can say db dot delete. Then db dot delete, what do you want to delete? We want to delete table contacts. We want to delete where our id equals to the user id. So we'll say student dot user id, and then lastly pass the so we delete db dot delete where that equals to the student user id, and then we'll just do a simple close. So sorry, we'll do a simple close. So we do db dot close, and then we'll now do our return type, then we'll do a return our query. So our query is going to be success. So that is a simple delete function. So we have that, and that's it for the database handler. So we've been able to do update, delete, we've done the view and the read query. So now the next thing we're going to do now, so we now have our activity main. So we have our main activity here, and when we click on this button, we are going to use these functions here. So we are going to connect those two in a bit, but before we do so, we have to pass an adapter. So we know that this list here inatumia adapter. So we'll just come and create an adapter. So we won't create our adapter inside the main activity as we always do. We'll just create it outside and then link it to our main activity. So we'll just right click and create a new Kotlin file. So this Kotlin class, we're just going to call it my list adapter. So we'll just say my list adapter. So we say my list adapter. So we have our list adapter there. That is going to, we are going to place everything inside there. So now our list adapter, we are going to pass the context. So we can just say val, then we can say context. So we want to pass context, but the context we want to pass in form of an activity. So we'll say var context, but our context we want to pass it as an activity. So we pass our context as an activity. So we have val context as an activity, and then we're going to pass the ID, we're going to pass the name, and we're also going to pass the email. So we'll say first is context activity, then ID we are going to say val, then we'll say ID, and we pass it as an array, so we pass this as an array, but we specify this to be a string. So ID array string, then name, so we'll say name, also we do it as an array specified to be string, and lastly email, so we'll say val, then we say email is specified to be an array, but the array should be of data type string. So we have our name, so after name we put a comma, then we can say val, then we call email, specify the email as an array, but the array should be of data type string. So we have that. So we can make these items to be private, so we can say private val ID, so we call this to be also private so that they cannot be accessed in any other class apart from the main activity. And then we have private val, then we say email arrays. So once we have that, we are going to extend this. So my list adapter, it has a context, so the list has ID, it has name, it has email, then we are going to say let it extend array adapter. So I'll just put this down here so that we can proceed. So we can just come and put our full colon here. So we want it to extend array adapter, so I don't know if I had left, okay, so I just want it to extend array adapter. So I want it to extend array adapter, and the array adapter, this is going to be of the type string, and what do we want to pass? We want to pass the custom list, so we'll just pass the context, so we'll say context, then we'll just come and call our layout, so we'll say r dot layout, then we say dot custom list. So we have custom list, and then we'll just give it a comma and pass the name. So that is our adapter. So we'll just go to the custom list, back to the custom list kidogo. So we'll just remove the view item here. So we'll remove the view item so that we don't pass it. So we'll just come and we do a delete. So we do a delete view item, and we can just leave this at that. So we remove also the linear layout. So delete that. So we just have the ID space, name, space, and email. So we can also, okay, let's remove the spaces, then we use a margin. So we can, the first space, so I want us to just remove them. So just editing out so that it looks a bit presentable when you view it. So we delete the first space. You can delete the second space, and we have that. So what I want us to do, let's just go back here, and in our text view we are going to give it margin top. So we'll say margin top, then we can say 10 dp. So sorry, yeah, so we can just come in here and say 10 dp for the first one. For the second one, so you can say also margin top, then we say 10 dp. And lastly, for this one, email, we'll just say margin top, then we do 10 dp instead of the spaces, so that when we pass it in our list view, it doesn't look a bit different from the rest. So we do 10 dp as well. So we do 10 dp. So we'll just have that placed there. So after we do that, we can now go back to our list adapter. So just a minute to So that's sorted, sorry for that. So you have your email there, you have your margin as then, so that the custom list just looks like this, so that we can, when we pass it, we just have the values placed like that. So we'll go back to our list adapter and proceed. So we'll then now once we pass the layout, you're now going to do the pass the following methods. So we do the get view, so get view, so you just pass your get view. So you just type get view, then you'll pass that function for get view. So for the get view, that is what you're going to use to get our values. So we'll remove the return type, then now pass the remaining. So we'll just say call an inflator. So we'll say val inflator equals to, then we'll say context dot, then we call a layouting inflator. Then we have a create a value, then we'll say var, then we call a row view. So we call a val row view, which is going to be equals to, then we'll say inflator dot inflate, and then what do we want to inflate? The layout, so we'll say r dot layout, then we'll say dot, we're going to use a custom list layout, and then we'll pass now, so we pass now, and then we also pass true. So we have layout inflator, so you do inflator dot inflate, pass the root as null, and then attach to the root as true. So we embed the ID, we embed the name, and we also embed the email. So we'll just come in and say we create a val, so we say ID text equals to, then we'll say row view dot, then we'll say find view by ID, then we'll say to say r dot ID dot, then we pass text view ID, that was from the custom text view, and then we place this as a text view. So we do for all of them, ID, text, name, and so we'll just do for all. So ID, so we can say ID, we can say name text, so we can say name text, so you say name text, and then here we can call email text. So this one will be text view dot name, and this will be text view dot email. That is it should be from the custom, yeah, so it should be text view dot email. So in our list adapter we have that text view dot name, and then we have text view dot email as text view for the three of them, and then we are going to place them in position for them to be viewed by the adapter. So we'll say ID dot text is going to be dot, so it's going to be set text, but we're just going to say dot text equals to, then we call our position, so we'll say ID, and then we pass a dollar sign, and then we'll put our value, so we'll pass our ID at specific position. So we have ID.text, and then we have name and email, so we'll do the same for ID.text, then we'll say for name text, and then this one is for email text. So this one is going to be name, and we pass a value for name from the database, then we'll say email, and then our position will be email, then we have we've passed our position, so ID text, email, and all that. So now once we finish that, we can now do a simple return. So we'll just call our return, so we'll say return, and we return our row view. So that is the simple adapter that you're going to use to pass values to our list there. So you can ensure that you have that and everything is in the correct order. So for this context, let's also give it just a private, so you can say private val context, we pass the activity ID as an array, so we say private val ID dot pass array as a string, private val name, pass it as an array of data type string, then private array email, pass it as an array of data type string, and then it extends array adapter, which is a string, and we want to pass the value of the context, and the layout you're going to use the r.layout.custom-list, and lastly we'll say we want to pass it as a name. So this is what you're going to be using as our adapter. So that's it. So we are done with our list adapter and our handler. So we are now going to work on the last part, which is going to be our main activity, which now will link everything together and ensure that our app is running. So I'll see you in the next part where we'll be doing our main activity. Bye.